This is David Rizzo with Rogers Gardens. So today we're going to talk about September in the garden. You believe it? It's already September, guys. I thought it was still August yesterday, no, but it's September 2nd. So this time of year, the weather does start changing a little bit. We're really going into fall. Even though we can still be hot in the day, we are getting that morning dew, which is really the end of the summer, really, which is interesting because I was like, wow, it seems like fall might come earlier this year just because last week I went out in the morning and my car was wet. So morning dew. Before we get started, though, I just want to give a couple plugs. And so the Halloween room is open now. So the Witching Hour, which is a Halloween boutique, that's open now. It opened on September 1st, so that's open. We're getting all of our pumpkins in, and one thing I love pumpkins. I love pumpkins. These are the warty ones. We have luminas. We have the birdhouse gourds, and it's getting late. It's too late to grow them, but now we are selling them. But if you do decide to grow them next year, shoot for June. Start the seeds in June or July. Don't wait until now, because some people will be looking for pumpkins right now, and it's too late to start the seeds because, you know, we're probably 2 months away from Halloween. So, but you can always find the seeds too. Like we have them in here. Baker Creek Seeds has them, but love the pumpkins. My favorite, the warty ones they call that. Let me fix this. Okay. So going through, so now that we are into September, I'm sort of winding down on a lot of my summer stuff, but I'm still planting. That's the one thing, is because as we're cooling down and as we cool down at night in the next 4 to 6 weeks, planting. So we're shifting gears a little bit. So right now we are getting ready for fall. So I'm bringing in my kale. This is we'll talk about the vegetables first and the herbs, and then I'll go through the flowers. But this is my favorite kale. This is the Tuscany kale, Italian Nera Toscano. I love this kale. So this is the one they make kale chips out of a lot, and I love, one of my favorites. So really right now, what I always key in on with planting, even though we still haven't got all of our winter seedlings yet, key in on the stuff that's going to take longer. So anything that's going to take 75, 90 days, plant now. Like, so the kale and the cabbage and even the Brussels sprouts and the broccoli and the cauliflower, you know, get it in now. And I'll talk about seeds in a little while at the end of it, but sometimes with lettuce, it can still be pretty hot with lettuce, but I'm really keying in on the chard, the celery, all that stuff. So let me go through again what I was talking about. So do your kale right now, do your cabbage. What cabbage is this? This is a really good one. This is Copenhagen. Copenhagen is a really good cabbage. Cabbage takes about 85, 90 days. If the cabbages start, and anything in the broccoli, cauliflower, kale family, if it gets chewed up by the caterpillars, cabbage worms, cabbage loafers, there's a really good organic called BT. So I'm happy that we got Captain Jack's, because Captain Jack's is a really good product. Very, very good product for using that for, and so look at like putting in your cooler season vegetables as we go more into September. And a lot of times too, I'll talk a little bit about with tomatoes. So everyone's like, should I take my tomatoes out? Should I leave them in? So right now, I ripped a lot of my tomatoes out last night that looked really bad. So this is what I do. If they don't look good, I'm taking them out. Now, if they still look good and they're done fruiting, because August is like a big month for setting and ripening. Sometimes I'll let some of them ripen out now. If they still look good, sometimes I will trim them back and feed them. That's one thing too. Coming out of summer and going into fall, your summer vegetables are really heavy feeders. And so even before I plant anything, and I probably will we'll get some fall tomatoes in a couple weeks, and I'll probably put in fall tomatoes. But the one thing I always do after I'm taking out a lot of the summer stuff is I want to put a lot of nutrients back in the garden. This is very important because last year I didn't do it, and my broccoli sort of struggled because tomatoes and squash and corn and pumpkins and all those plants are heavy feeders. So what I usually do is I'll go back through and I'll use my compost, like the Malibu. I'll use the Malibu compost. This is a good one for nutrients. So I'll put my Malibu compost in. I love the worm castings. I use a lot of worm castings and I blend that in. One thing that I do differently right now though with vegetable gardens is I like to really bump up the mycorrhizae and get a lot of the active beneficial funguses. So I do use a different fertilizer this time of year. I go through and I'll use Bio's Alive. Now the difference between this and the all-purpose I use a lot for my summer stuff because it's high calcium, high phosphorus. Now we're going into some of our leafy vegetables and our winter vegetables. I want more mycorrhizae. I don't have to have as high of phosphorus, so a little higher nitrogen, but mainly beneficial fungus. Want the soil to get active, want it to really put some nutrients in there, get it to hold water again. And another one that I didn't bring up, I like to use the Harvest Supreme because it has a lot of chicken manure in it, and it's a compost with chicken manure, so that's a good one to use too after a lot of those summer crops have sort of depleted your soil. And you know, some people like to rest their garden for a while, and I usually don't. I put a ton of amendments back in there, and then that will break down and that will put some nutrients back in there. So moving back in with the vegetables, so again with the kale, do the kale now. Do the chard, the Swiss chard I plant right now. Lettuce, coastal, we can still get away with it if you're hotter. Wait to do the lettuce till the end of the month, almost October, because once we cool down at night more, we're hotter in the day, the lettuce will be fine. It's just those hot days and the hot nights. That's one thing with that. And with seeding. So let's talk a little bit about growing seeds. So this is the time of year I grow a lot of stuff from seeds at home. So I'm taking my plug trays. I use sometimes you guys can use these. These are the little peat pots. So I'll just hold up the thing. These are little jiffy peat pots, and they work good. You'll just use a good seed starting mix and put about 2 to 3 seeds in each little cell. And mainly I'm doing this with anything that takes long. Other stuff, and I'll go over that. I'm going to show you where did I put the. Oh, okay. Even though these are sort of beat up, I love growing in plug trays. So what I'll do is I'll do little rows of them. So I'll do a couple rows of broccoli. I'll do a couple rows of other vegetables like kale, cabbage, and that way I'm not doing the whole thing. But I love these plug trays. But use a good seed starting mix that drains good, and that's important. So one of the things with what I'm growing right now, it's basically the same stuff that I'll do from plants, but I do a lot of seeds. Bella Star broccoli, I'll do that now. I'll do Copenhagen of the cabbage. If you guys want to do Brussels sprouts, they could do right now. Your cauliflower, you can start your seeds now of your twister cauliflower. Botanical interest. So all these are new seeds for 2024. Your Napa cabbage. Do that with Napa cabbage though. Really watch it for snails and slugs. They love Napa cabbage, so sort of watch for that. Red Acres cabbage, that's a good one to do from seed right now. And then again, Neriana Toscano kale, your red chard. And so that's what I do a lot from seed right now because they take longer. So they take about 6 to 8 weeks before I really can put them in the ground. But another thing that I do is I'll wait until we go more into the end of this month, and then I'll start direct sowing in my garden gourmet market mixed lettuce. That's going to go in about 3 to 4 weeks. Arugula, rocket arugula. This is one of my favorite arugulas. It doesn't bolt. It's called rocket, and so the rocket is really good. I do bok choy right in the garden. Bok choy is in the broccoli cauliflower family. Bok choy and pak choy. They grow so fast. Direct sow them. Don't do them in trays. All the radishes, like the Rudolph radish, the Easter blend, I do. I love to do the carrots now. Like I'll plant carrots in the garden right now. Just keep it really well watered. Heavy soils do the smaller carrots. This is Shin Carota. The little small 8-ball carrots do now. The red cord chutneys. These do good in heavy soil. Do those plant those now. If you get into the Danivers types, they need really good deep soil, so they need about 10 to 12 inches. So raised beds or more looser soil. Cosmic purple, I do now. I like doing the beets. The gourmet blend beets, like a lot of the Italian heirlooms, like the Chioggias are mixed in here. Cilantro. I'll start planting my cilantro direct seeded in the next 2-3 weeks as we cool down. Bigger packs. I do like the bigger packs of arugula and the cilantro. And again, my favorite, I'm going to hammer you guys with this one. My favorite lettuce to direct sow in the garden is Gourmet Market Mix. And the reason why I like this one is it has a mix of a lot of baby greens. Let's see what it has in it. Let's see what it, what it has in it. Okay, so it has, if it tells me, I don't see. Usually it will tell you what's in the mix, but it doesn't. But anyway, what it does is it has a lot of red leaf lettuce. There's one called Royal Oak Leaf. Always has Royal Oak Leaf in it, and then it has romaines and some other cut and come agains. But that's one of my favorite lettuces. So do those in the next couple weeks as we cool down. So moving on from the vegetables, herbs. You can still do a ton of your herbs. So I'm doing a lot of perennial herbs right now. I'm doing like some annuals, some perennials. So like lemongrass you can still do right now. So lemongrass I'm planting. Your chives, these are garlic chives. So I can plant the garlic chives right now. We did get some of these in and you don't see them that much. This is the moringa tree. So a lot of cool plants that we're starting to see some come in. So moringa tree came in. Basil I keep planting. Basil I'll plant, but really right now, this is really the last big push I'm going to plant with basil, with sweet basil. This is Tulsi basil for tea. So plant it right now because you want to harvest it before we start cooling down. My favorite oregano, when I make pizzas, Mexican oregano. I love this oregano. I use a lot of parsley. So your parsley you can plant right now. Your barbecue rosemary, love barbecue, one of my favorite culinary rosemaries. Again, this is sweet basil. This is just large leaf. Always pick the leaves to make sure it has more of a clove if you make your own pesto. English thyme is a good one right now. So mainly, you can still keep on doing your herbs because we're not going to really cool down. We're going to cool down more at night, but we're still going to stay warm for a little while. So that's one thing with the vegetables and the herbs. So plant. Another thing I'll touch on is we're going to start getting in our fall tomatoes. There's so many different varieties of fall tomatoes. I really like a few. I mean, I've had mixed results with some of them, but you got to get them in. You got to get them to take off quick. Glacier is a good one. There's some ones that we're going to get in to watch for. We might get Legend, Siberia, Manitoba, but they're little tomatoes. So you got to put them in, feed them, and get them to take off before we really go more into fall. Okay? So that's with that. One more other thing is we got in shallots. Shallots usually do buy bulbs in the late winter, early spring, but I have them right now. This is Ambition, and shallots will keep multiplying. So if you get them by plants, buy them now and they'll multiply, and you'll never have to buy shallots again. And so if you guys like using shallots. So moving on. So now we're really, I want to go more into the perennials. So annuals you can still do until we really cool down, but I still push a lot of summer annuals. I'm still planting petunias, I'm planting marigolds, I'm planting zinnias, all those annuals, because don't start planting your pansies and violas until we really go more into October, until we're really cooling down. So I'll do those, but this time of year is a great time to plant a lot of perennials, and nobody really talks as much about perennials, like these little evolvulus as a little ground cover, like the Hawaiian blue eyes. And let me just set this down here. And I love doing the penstemons, like electric blue. This comes off of a native. This is really like off of a native called Margarita Bob or Head of Firelight. This is electric blue, so definitely do those with the perennial. Gara, I'm still planting Gara. You know, Gara, even though some of them in your garden might need to be trimmed back, still planting Gara to establish for next year. Even these little the Gomphrenias. Which one is this? This is just called cut flower red, which is a good one to plant. When it does go dormant, you'll trim it back, and I'll talk more about trimming at the end. But all these little perennials, like this is Millie Rock Red Yarrow. Love to plant it right now. The Cupias I put in right now. Some of my favorite flowers, though, I love perennials. So this is an Agastache, hummingbird mint. Hummingbirds love this, and it's sort of a relative of the mint, but it doesn't spread. Love the fragrance of the leaves, but this is almost going to be trimmed back soon, but these look really good right now. But one of my favorite plants for even hot areas, takes a lot of heat. So even like the echinaceas are good, the little purple cone flowers. Keep on planting your coreopsis, and that way they get established for next year. Again, more coreopsis. This is a nice little one. I don't know the cultivar on this one, but nice little yellow variety coreopsis. Nasturtiums. I love nasturtiums. One of the main edible flowers that we sell is nasturtiums. So if you guys get into doing edible edible flowers, nasturtiums. They're one of the top. I did bring in a few of the kitchen mini peppers, and these are great for pots, you know. So these, even if you guys ever plant these in the spring, you can plant them right now and really harvest them. We've got some nice 6-inch kitchen minis, which is really like the little lunchbox peppers, where they're really good little edible peppers. And so I don't know if can I come around and show them the other perennials, or can you see me? I don't know if I'm
I mean, picture. Maybe go around and.
Okay, I'm gonna come around. I don't know if you guys can see me, but I wanna be able to show some of the other perennials that we're getting in. This is a really cool one right here. Can you guys see me? Can you see me?
There we go. Yeah.
Okay, so another perennial that's really cool. Another plant that's really cool is this blue hibiscus. This is really close to what they call Ruth Bancroft, but this is a variety called red-centered hibiscus. One that you don't see that much. So this is one of my sort of favorite plants that we just got in 1 gallons, and they get into a nice perennial about 6 feet tall, and they bloom really that nice blue flower. So watch for that one. We just got some 1 gallons. This is a cool salvia called Pink Pong, and so these are really nice, great for hummingbirds. So, and even when you go into salvias, see how some of these are getting broken up. So what I always do, I go down a little farther when I'm trimming. So once that's broken, that's sort of done, I'm going down, I'm trimming down. And even like a lot of your perennials, if they're done right now, you can actually take them down. I'm just taking off spent flowers, but don't be afraid to give them a good haircut. And a lot of times with salvias, I'll prune them in half. So when these are all done, I'll prune them in half, because this time of year, a lot of stuff's gonna finish blooming because it's bloomed all summer long. So don't be afraid really right now to clean up your perennials and get them ready for fall, because they'll bloom one last time before they start to really slow down into late October. So other perennials that I like, so this is Ping Pong. I always like to bring up my favorites, and so because I could talk about varieties all day long, but I like this salvia. It's so dark purple. It's called Amistad. Oh, this plant will get 4 to 5 feet tall and 4 feet wide, but I love the color on it. It's so vivid purple. So that's one of my favorites. You go into lantana and do all the lantana. I like the rudbeckias. We're getting in some good gold mounding lantana. I do like the gold. I don't like a lot of the tall lantanas because they get too big and rangy. Love the black-eyed Susans. So now as we get closer to fall, we're bringing those in. And so the Sunbelievables are good too. We plant those right now. So the main thing is, as we go into fall, don't be afraid to plant a lot of your perennials. Like this is a native called Verbena di Lamina. I love this plant. I'll put this into perennial gardens. And then it's really the last shot as we go into this month. I'm doing my milkweed. So I want to put in the milkweed now, because as we go into October, the milkweed and the monarchs are going to start slowing down. So as we go, I won't trim them back until like late October. So I know a lot of people go, oh, that's sort of late, that's sort of late. I will have them. I will have the milkweeds growing in the garden, but once we go into late October, that's when I trim them back. And with these, I do prune them back hard because they actually produce shoots from the crown. So when you prune them back hard, next year they're going to multiply on that crown. So keep on planting them really good right now, and because the monarchs are really active because it's been so hot. You know, we finally heated up. I love the little lemon verbenas. Or not lemon verbena. I mean, this is the lavender. This is a good variety of English lavender. This is Munstead. Munstead is a good one, and lavender is another one you'll trim back as they finish. So that's it with the perennials. And I'll talk a little bit about fruit trees really quick, and then I'll go into pruning how I prune the perennials. So fruit trees, you can still plant a lot of your stone crops. So a lot of you can still plant like your apples, your peaches, your plums, your pomegranates, your nectarines. Still plant them. Now with fertilizing with stone fruits, I do want to go through and I want to use the all-purpose. This is my favorite fertilizer because they've basically grown so long. If they fruited and they're done fruiting, now's the time to feed stuff too, because it's spent all that energy and nutrients to really fruit and to grow. Fertilizer, but I do the all-purpose. And even with these pomegranates, if they start getting really tall, again, I'm going to go through and I'm going to always trim the branches in half. You know, this is just a little plant right here, and so I'm just light trimming it. But the main thing is, branches, even like on apricots and peaches and plums and nectarines. You get those whips that are 10 feet tall, trim them in half. So that's important with fruit trees. All those stone crops, I don't really prune them a lot until January, but I will keep the height down and keep them smaller. And figs are another one you can plant right now. I got some good figs in from Monrovia. I got Peter's honey fig, and which one is this? I just grabbed it. This is brown turkey. Brown turkey, I hate to say this, isn't my favorite, but I do like Peter's honey fig. I like white Genoa. I like all of them, but Peter's honey is really good, but brown turkey is sort of bitter. But even blackjack is a good one. Black mission. You can actually order all these fruit trees on our website. If you go onto rogersgardens.com, you can order all of them. You can order grapes and everything. And so, but watch for white Genoa, Peter's honey, and I do like blackjack or the mission types. Those are really good too. But Peter's brown turkey, it's too bitter for me. And so, but okay with that. And so with pruning, even with the figs, I didn't bring a large enough plant, but say if the stalks were getting really big, again, trim them lightly back, because that way they're going to shoot new growth, and then that growth is going to fruit off of in the spring of next year. You don't want to shape them. This is a thing. This is the time of year to control the height on a lot of your fruit trees. You don't want to do this in January, because if you do it in January, you're not going to get any fruit off the new growth, because most stone crops in the family, they produce off of the new growth. And even with citrus, you'll clean them up right now and fertilize them. The one thing is, I always will feed them with a good citrus food. Give them this. And another thing that I do is I always like to give a little Epsom salts to the citrus, and make sure that you water really good, because this is a salt, so that's very important. And then shifting gears, so that was with the fruit trees and pruning them and getting them ready to keep the height down to make them more manageable when you're harvesting them. Another thing is pruning all your perennials back. Roses, I'm going to go get the roses, and I'm going to talk about pruning, and then we'll wind it down. But I'm going to bring some of the perennials out, like roses. I'm going to come around, but roses bloomed all year this year. Roses have been blooming since, gosh, probably about March. Sorry, I'm close to that. So right now, you want to always get them ready to bloom again in fall. So even with these, I'm not really pruning them back that much. I'm just going through, and a lot of people say look for a five leaf branch, but you know what? I'm never pruning them here because it's too weak. So if I prune them down farther, they're going to have a sturdier stalk, sturdier branch. So I always will go through, and even if the ones are just barely trim, and now I'll clean up some of these older leaves. If you have a problem with rust or with mildew, you can use the Rose 3-in-1. This is my favorite spray that I'll use for spraying. The Safer, I love the Safer product. Safer is such a good product. But even with these, you know, you got a couple new buds on here, but I'll leave these. But generally, I'm pruning them down because I'm getting them ready, because they bloom all summer, and then spring, summer. It's a good time to clean them up and get them ready to bloom again in fall. You'll get one last really good bloom, and then they'll start slowing down as we go later in October. So that's with roses. Feed them, and you can watch for the little bristly rose slugs that are eating the leaves. If you do, just use one of the organic sprays like Captain Jack's. That will work against them. So that's with roses. And with pruning other perennials, like I brought up the Status. This Status, again, I'm going all the way down into the leaf with my pruners and just prune. That's a new one, so I'm not going to touch that one. So all these spent ones on the outside, you can see the new one coming in. Not going to trim him, but a lot of times, even if they're sort of half, I'll just take them all back and get them ready to bloom again. And then again with salvias and with lavenders, I'm not really going into the new growth, right? But I'm just going through. I always hold my pruners really light, and then I'm just taking all these spent stalks off, you know. And then again, these salvias are going to start coming back in and blooming again. But I want to sort of watch though too if they are producing new growth, not to prune them too hard. But again, I just want to go through, get rid of all these old stalks, because a lot of times what people don't realize, if you don't really go through on some perennials and clean them up at least once a year, they won't bloom. They won't come back and bloom. So I'm not hard pruning them. I'm just really just taking off all these old spent flower stalks, you know, because they still, see, so clean it up a little bit, pull out some of the dead, you know, and that's about it, you know. That's how I'm cleaning them up right now. When we go into fall, I might prune it back a little bit more, but again, that's just, you know, keeping it simple and keeping them pruned, and that's it for the pruning. Okay, and so that's pretty well, like it for today. Questions. Let's go to question and answers.
Yeah, let me find. There was a couple
I think I'm gonna take the mic off here. It keeps on getting in front of my face. You guys, I think you guys can hear me. I'm gonna turn the mic off. It's like,
yeah, there you go.
Yes.
So one of the questions is, can I still plant impatiens?
Yes, you can. So the question was, can you still plant impatiens? Yes, you can, because impatiens will go for a long time until they slow down. So impatiens will still go, and a lot of times in Southern California, they won't really slow down until probably more into November. So they're going to go September, October, and then November they'll probably slow down.
Perfect.
When we get cold, and if we get any rain, and that's what usually does in some of the impatiens is when we get a lot of rain. If we get like an early rain, cold and rainy.
Yeah. And it doesn't look like there's too many more,
Okay.
so it's probably all going to be, I'm cutting back asparagus.
Yeah, now's the time. Yeah, now's the time. So she's asking, can we cut asparagus back? Yes, you can, because asparagus is a perennial vegetable that produces off the crown. So every year, this is how you build energy on the crown of asparagus. So the asparagus get 3 to 4 feet tall, you're taking them to the ground. And after the third year, when they come out in spring, you'll get asparagus the size of your pinky, and those will be harvestable size. Now, if you never prune them back, you're going to get those little pencil asparagus that are never going to do anything. So by pruning them back, and you can fertilize them, take like an organic. I used to take like cottonseed meal or like the Bios Alive or one of those, and I'll feed them. But the main thing is when you cut them back right now, you're building that crown so it has energy, and it takes those nutrients. And so when you come out in March and April, you'll get sizable asparagus. So that's important. So you do cut back your asparagus right now. And I didn't touch on it too, but there's a lot of stuff in the garden that you can be doing, like dividing a lot of your perennials. Like you can divide your what am I thinking of? Irises you want to divide right now. You want to divide daylilies. Any perennial that multiple trunks off it, divide them right now. And we will get our spring flowering bulbs probably at the end of the month, almost October. So watch for those.
Okay. Perfect. And then any other questions, we will be posting this live on our social media on Facebook and Instagram, so you can always comment down from there and we can answer any more questions as well. But I think that does it for today.
And so thank you. This is David Rizzo from Rogers Gardens, and thank you for joining me today. And if you guys have any questions, come into the nursery, call me. But I'm always here. I'm usually off Thursday, Fridays, but I'm here most of the part of it. Especially on the weekends, I'm here. Okay, thank you guys. Happy gardening.
Perfect. Thank you.